Come to order. Pledge tonight will be said by Mr. Timtak.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's adopted. Consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's adopted. Visitors, we have one visitor, Mr. David Simmons.
Yes, sir.
Please step up and welcome. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I'll be as short as I can.
Yes, sir.
My daughter, which is Jean here, is a student at Blackman High School. The pants she has on, she wore to school. And before she went to school, she put a little piece of duct tape over the spots on it. Now, I don't see nothing with a spot on it. She made it through the first period, second period, third period, and to lunch, right? And was told she was to change and go home. Oakland, you're allowed to learn that way. Siegel, you're allowed to learn that way. Riverdale, you're allowed to learn that way. Only thing it says in here, it don't say anything in their rules, which I have here, and I'd be glad to pass it, everybody can read it. That it says no holes in pants or jeans, no frays in jeans, and no appearance of holes. Okay? It don't say nothing about no duct tape. I talked to the principal. She was very unpolite. I said, what if a child has a hole in their pants? And I think a lot of you gentlemen, when you was a kid, if you wasn't very rich like I was, you had a hole in your pants, you could buy an arm-on patch. I said, what about those? And she said, can't wear them. Can't wear them still. You know, we got some poor children in the school system too. Everybody rich. So when I went over to talk to her, I got very embarrassed. I walked up to sign in. Here's a student greeting the public with cleavage on the way down here with a necklace hanging down. And you can see it here.
Well, let's stick to your case, Mr. Simmons.
Okay, well, I'm just saying,
Right.
I was embarrassed from that,
Okay.
okay? But on this, step out to me, let them see it over here, her pants. This is right behind the pocket. There's two pieces of material that's in front of that. And I think it's wrong. And I think if you don't have a uniform thing, it ought to be for all schools, not just Blackman, not just Siegel, not just Oakland, Smyrna. It ought to be all of them. Afraid, y'all are gentlemen. You probably got some lieutenants home that's afraid on the bottom. That's afraid. That should be sent home too. If afraid is on your pocket, they should send them home too. I feel like my daughter's been discriminated against. I feel like I've been through every channel, and y'all are the last one before I go to the bigger channel. And I think something needs to be done about this. I talked to your superintendent. He took my phone number. He was going to call me back. Never did. Had the principal call me, which means the principal already had this agreement. I feel like he owed me a little for him to call me back. That's like if you came to me and I took my neighbor up to call me. You know, if the man tells you he's going to call you back, he's no better in his work. He should have called me back. Instead of having the principal, because me and the principal had already had a discussion. I'm getting close to my 3 minutes, and I appreciate y'all very much, and I know y'all have a hard job. But I think this right here is ridiculous. You can't hardly go to the store and buy a pair of pants and they this anything. I could see if it's a hole on the bud lock or up the private part or somewhere else, it's different. But then like patching them from the knee, I think that's wrong. You know, y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Have a good day.
Sure, Mr. Gill.
First of all, I apologize for not calling you back. I thought it would suffice for Ms. Vick to call you back. I did speak to her about the issue, and, you know, she essentially said what you said, which is that they're afraid, and afraid pair of pants aren't allowed within the school, and she was simply enforcing the rules as were reflected in student handbooks, et cetera. So I didn't feel that I should overturn her. I mean, she's hired to run that school, and so I mean, I certainly support her position, and again, I apologize for not calling you back.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gill. And number 7.
Getting there, sir. We have, I don't know, about a month or 2 or 3 ago, I told Mr. Odom I felt like with all the challenges that are presented to teachers and administrators across the county, we ought to start recognizing schools for academic success. And tonight's going to be the first in what I hope is an annual presentation to the schools that were most successful this year with respect to value-added gains. What we decided to do, Mr. Odom, Ms. Whittington, our data person, myself, was to, we kicked around 3-year average, but we thought at the end of the day that we'd recognize the school at each, the middle, the high school, and the elementary schools that had the highest composite value-added scores this year. We're calling it the Director of Schools Award. We'll present it to the school principal right now, and I want to make sure that they got that exposure in front of the board, but I want them to take it home and hold on to it, because hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks, Mr. Odom and I will come to a faculty meeting and present it to the entire faculty. I'm sure you guys will give credit to the teachers for a job well done. But there were several schools, and I'd just like to recognize some of the runners-up, so to speak. Campus School was 8th in the elementary schools out of about 20-some odd. They had a 6.0 composite score. Campus School had remarkable gains over the last 3 years. They were in the 25th percentile in 3 content areas and 20th percentile in the other. And 3 years ago, we had negative gains, so we're proud of the academic success that's being reflected there. Blackman Elementary had a 7.0 composite gain. John Coleman, 7.1. We all know John Coleman has a high free reduce rate, but they're doing good things down there. Rock Springs Elementary, a 7.4 composite gain. A 7.4 at Roy Walter. The school's about 80% free reduce. They're showing gains. And Stewart's Creek Elementary, they have a real academic focus there as well. They have an 8.3% composite gain. But the 2 schools, there was the tie in the elementary grade level with substantial gains. I remember last year, Ms. Goostrey was disappointed that they didn't do as well as she'd hoped that first year. And they really hunkered down and got busy, rolled their sleeves up and did some incredible work. And I'm real proud of Ms. Goostrey. So the first, and I'll ask him to come up here in just a second, the first winner of the annual Director of Schools Award will be Browns Chapel, who had 11.5% composite score, as did Cedar Grove. Good job, Mr. Gillian, and same holds true for your teachers. So if, at this time, if you guys would step up here, ladies before gentlemen. Proud to hear that, Kelly. It's called a short arm syndrome. Congratulations. I'm real proud. Miss Goostrey, when I was principal at Cedar Grove, was the first teacher I ever hired.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Odom and I will be there real soon to present it. I think we've talked about next Tuesday, right?
Absolutely, that's
Okay.
wonderful.
Good
Thank you
job,
so much.
and congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Gillian? I know Mr. Gillian looks pretty young to be a principal, but the guy has made the right stuff. He works hard, he knows what curriculum's about, his teachers are motivated, challenge them, and results are here firsthand. So congratulations, Mark. And middle school, the 5 highest middle schools were Stewart's Creek Middle. They showed big gains, 7.0% composite. Siegel Middle, 8.5% composite. Rockvale Middle, 12.0. Blackman Middle, 15.2. Big gains. But the winner this year of the First Director of Schools Award and the middle school that had the highest value-added composite scores is Laverne Middle School. Mr. Holman. Congratulations, this is the first year there. I appreciate you continuing that good tradition, and hold on to that. We'll arrange to come see you, okay? Thank you, sir. In the high school, we had several high schools that showed positive gains. Holloway High, 3.7 composite. Eagleville, 6.9. Oakland, 12.2. Blackman, 20.3 composite gains. These are on end-of-course tests. What's that? English, biology, Algebra 1, U.S. history. There are 4 or 5 end-of-course tests now. But the highest composite scores in the district and number 1 in the state of Tennessee in U.S. history. This award goes to Smyrna High School, and I know Mr. Powell would offer a lot of credit to Mr. Rakes for running a good show, but I'm hearing you're doing good things too, Mr. Powell. I'm proud of you. Okay, sure. You guys take a 30-second break.
We're working so hard.
Make sure you guys cover up Dr. Burnham.
And what we will do on these other plaques, we'll reflect annually the winner, and they'll be posted in our lobby.
Timmy, you feel like you want to say something?
I do.
Shoot.
I'm so pleased to see that we're doing this. Mr. Gill and Mr. Odom and whoever brought this idea before us. We need to celebrate success. I think that's what they told us when I was at Oakland, and I believe that very much. I'm proud of all these gains. It's just so nice to see this, and we get a chance to see some very positive things. A lot of schools there mentioned, and I know there's other schools that had positive gains as well. Congratulations to all those, and it's just nice to see. I'm very, very happy that we're doing this.
Thank you.
I agree, Tim. Thanks for those comments. Number 8.
Well, we have 2 spotlights. First, Read to Succeed, Laura Beth Jackson Payne. Hello, Laura Beth.
Welcome, Laura Beth. How are you?
Thank you. Good to see you all. Thank you for allowing me some time at the meeting here. Today I'm here on behalf of Read to Succeed, which has been promoting literacy in Rutherford County for over 8 years now. I know for many of you, you're familiar with our programs, including Reading in the Schools Day, Reading Rally, Unplug and Read, Read to Be, our high school Express Yourself Arts Conference, and our many family and adult literacy programs which your schools participate in. I'm here today to talk about the One Book Reading Program, which is for the entire community, and announcing our Community Read Choice for this year. This year we are joining our partners Linebaugh Library, Barnes & Noble, and MTSU, introducing our choice, which is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. It's a children's book, or a young adult book rather, but it's been an exciting read for adults as well, so we're excited about this choice. If you have a teenager, you might be familiar with it. It's been a blockbuster hit in the young adult market, but adults are finding it quite a page-turner as well. Just my husband over there, so he's been enjoying it too. The book is set in a bleak future in which an oppressive government and reality TV have combined for a deadly spin that leads the principal characters, 2 young people, to fight for their very lives and their humanity. Despite being futuristic, this book addresses very relevant issues of hunger and poverty, injustice, family and personal relationships, culture, trust, government, and other issues, just to name a few. With some of these thieves in mind, our special partners this year include Greenhouse Ministries, which many of you know serve the underprivileged in our community, and they're also partnering with United Way, which of course serves our community in so many different ways. It's been a New York Times bestseller, and even writer Stephen King says that The Hunger Games is a page-turner. So we're looking forward to promoting this, not only for our young people in the community, but also among adults as well. It's been a great conversation starter for parents and children, but also even individuals who don't have children have been finding it a really compelling read for ideas. And of course, that's what the Read to Succeed is all about, is impressing the point that literacy matters in our community, not only for our children, but for our adults as well. So I'm presenting a copy of the book to this council. We ask that you take it, read it. It's a real page-turner. I promise that you'll enjoy it. Pass it around, write a note in it, and pass it on to someone else who would enjoy a good read. So thank you for your time this evening, and thanks always for your support of Read to Succeed.
Thank you, Laura Beth. I've actually read it, so Mr. Tackett volunteers. And we'll get the book report in our
I'll be finished having the meetings over with.
Will that,
No reading during the meeting.
will that be the
Stay
narrative form?
afterwards. Pardon?
Will that be a narrative form report?
I'll defer to Aaron on that.
Would like to wish the Read to Succeed, on your success with the spelling bee. And I think Dr. Burns, you
2
participated.
years ago, yeah.
And you made it on up to level, I believe, didn't you, Dr. Burns?
Yeah, I beat Snowbird, I remember that. I defeated the only non-human in the batch. Yeah, it's a great program, and we certainly appreciate your work with that. Go ready for B.
Okay, B, Mr. Odom will, as you recall, about 2 weeks ago, he and I pulled a Rick Perry on this one. We got up there and forgot what to do, and it kind of fell apart on us, but we're back for seconds. Mr. Odom's going to review the TVAS scatter plot data reports for Rutherford County, and if it,
I'm guessing this one's not live, I don't know.
well, we got a backup plan.
Okay, good.
But if it does work, you'll be most impressed.
This is not live tonight.
Oh, that's
It was
right.
not on our end, it was on the other end at Sam's end. We did it. To show you some things about it, it was a fairly new report that came back in late October, but it shows you something about our district in comparison to others in the state. If you remember the New Tennessee Value-Added Scatter Plot, it's listed and is on the public site. It's on. You do not have to be on restricted site to see this particular report. And so new scatter plot under the reports tab for the TVAS site. And so we're going to start with looking at some of these, and you can kind of track it. It's not nearly as exciting when the dots move around on the screen, but we can see the result. And you can look at all of those tests, the EOCs, ACTs, Writing Explorer, a number of things. If you remember from the chart before, on the vertical axis, the entering achievement level, this would be the percent of proficient and advanced for those students. That's your vertical axis. If you remember also the zero line, you have negative numbers on the left and positive numbers on the right. In the value-added world, 0 is a student gaining a year's gain for 1 year in school. So you get a 0 for that. But if your students can gain in addition to that, higher than that, then you're going to get a positive value-added score. So that chart, if you'll look kind of over at this particular spot, the star is Rutherford County, with the first number, the gain is 40.11. The second one is where our students started, and this happens to be TCAP math across all of the grades, which would be our 4 through 8, so 58.47. Now this in itself looks pretty good, but it looks much better when you add it with another click of the button, you can add every other school district in the state of Tennessee, all 136 of them. Once again, you see this, each of those represent one of those schools, but over here for our math, this is that Rutherford County score. So when you compare us again, you see we're one of the top gaining districts across the state. So there's the definition. It's the amount of growth students are making compared to the state growth standard, which is year for year, or the state average of all other tests. The growth index is at 0 for all tests. Your idea is to stay as far to the right as you can with positive gain. So I asked myself the question, well, math sure looks pretty good, but let's look at some other subjects and see how we compare there. So you add to that, And thankfully, again, now the scale may change some, so you're interested in the relative position again, the star being Rutherford County again. So looking at Rutherford County compared, again, to the other districts in the state, you'll see us very high level gains. Now, if I were able to show you this, some of these that may be higher in starting, this may be like Williamson County or something, because the students are starting at about 65%. But they had very good gains in some of them. But you see these dots move around. But one thing that you may see as you look at Rutherford counties, as you go across this, you'll see a very consistent placement in high gains.
You know, Don, not to
Yes, sir.
interrupt you, but, and I'm sure you'll eventually point this out, but even though we're way over here in gains, we also are among the upper or highest achieving districts too, with respect to just raw achievement.
In the world of this test analysis, they divide this into 4 quadrants typically. And your other line would be about the 50th percentile, which is average. Up here in this quadrant would be very bright students, but not much gain at all. Shame on them. They're not adding to the brighter students. Down here is low gains, negative gains, and low achievement. This one has good gains, but not high achievement. The upper quadrant is where you want to be most of the time in this, because you have both high gains and you have high achievement, those two. So that's a reading language arts. This one is our science. Notice again, the scale changes, but the relative position for Rutherford County compared to the other districts across the state in all of those elementary subjects, again, this many districts across the state were losing value in science last year. This is Rutherford County's growth. Again, when you see that star. Look at social studies. Again, you see very similar pattern. Our relative position across all 4 subjects, still high gains. That's what you want to see. As an instructional person, the next question I began asking myself, well, that's all of the students. How did we do with the gifted students? How do we do with the special ed students? Do we maintain gains? Because parents may ask us sometime, well, you know, my kid's really bright. Are we making gains for those? You have the ability on that site to, with a click of a few more buttons, to take a look at that. And this is what it looks like. So I can go down any of these categories and check this box and see how we perform in that by clicking submit. So that's exactly what you're going to see in the next slide as we look if our gains is maintained through different groups. And I put 2 on this one. Now this is gifted students in math. This is gifted students in reading language arts. Look again in Rutherford County's position. So we held the position of very high gains for the very brightest students here. And you see again as you begin to look at that, that's very important in comparison to the county. Now let's look again and see, how do we now do then with the special education students? I'm interested in that. I have the same 2 subjects again, and once again you see Rutherford County here, and these are not the same charts I'm putting up there because if you'll notice the scales change at the bottom. But our position stays relatively strong again. And this is tested SPED. This is for your math. This is for your reading language arts. So I'm happy to say that in gaining for students, our SPED students or our gifted students, both of those are gaining very, very well, especially when you compare it to every other district in the state. You're looking at that. You can go and begin to look a little bit further. Well, let's ask some questions about algebra. High school is a bigger problem for us. Your goal is always to be to the right side of this 0 line so that you're adding value. But you notice in Algebra 1, is I've been doing the report card for several years for you, has been our biggest challenge. And you look over here again, you look at biology, once again, everybody's clustering, but we're still in the higher level, but always with a positive gain. Mr. Tackett, you're in high school, you know too. It's very difficult to get these students to take those accelerated courses. They're so worried about their GPA to get the Hope Scholarship that they want to take the standard level course, and they really need to be in the advanced level course or the honors course. And we really push for it. The principals push for it. But, you know, that's a real challenge for us. I'll have to tell you that.
Why do you think there's so much more variation in algebra than in biology? Because if you look at the scales, obviously there's a much greater spread
Um,
of performance on algebra.
Algebra includes, even thrown in this, we have about 300 students that will take algebra in the middle grades. When they hit high schools, their scores are blended into this.
Okay.
That would be true across the whole state of Tennessee. But typically, all across No Child Left Behind, across the nation, the most difficult subject and the one that's been the most challenging is Algebra 1, the first math course in high school for students. That's not uncommon again. But I'm really, again, glad to see us to the right of that line and adding value to it. That's what you want to see. Taking a look at this, let's take a look at U.S. history. There's our little star again. Very high in U.S. history compared to the rest of the state, and that's the composite of all of our high schools and all of our students who took U.S. history test in 2011 again. And again, if we were live, I could click on any of those dots and you can see them. You can see what district that happens to be. This is our English 1. English 1 clusters a little bit more, but it is also on the positive side, as you can see here. It's a positive 0.3 there, the gain. But you notice the districts are clustering a little bit more in some of those courses. A little bit more difficult to get high school teachers to do differentiated instruction, but they're still doing a good job at doing that. You see, the value-added world in the high school is still relatively, it's much newer than elementary. Elementary has been doing this since about 92, 93, and it hasn't been too many years that value-added was really brought into the high school. A new way to look at that. Let's take a look at the couple of the other tests, Explore. Here's Rutherford County's Explore scores. That's the 8th grade ACT Explore test composite. You can look at it by subject if you like, but that's the composite. Once again, Rutherford County's Explorer for the 7th and 8th grade again ranks very, very well. Our ACT is more in the cluster. They're really all over the place in ACT. Right there is a composite for that, still on the positive gain side as you begin to look at that. Another thing that you can do, and you can spend hours on scatterplot, okay? We don't have that time to do that. This is EOC U.S. history for a 3-year average. Now, you can do 3-year average, which I did in 2011 for most of you because we gave the awards for 2011, you know. But you can do a 3-year. The only 3-year for the high school is U.S. history because they did not have a new test. The other new test, they have 2 years of new test in the other end-of-course subjects. Looking at this is a cluster of all of the high schools. I did this by school, not by district. This is all of the high schools in the state of Tennessee. And there's one little outlying dot over here. And it belongs to Smyrna High School in Rutherford County with over 26.95 point gain in this for the 3-year average. They're number 1 in the state in value added for U.S. history, which Mr. Gill mentioned earlier. That's something to really be proud of. Looking at this, and so you kind of see, now why is this important? It's very important to our teachers because remember 35% of a teacher's score on this evaluation system is tied to value added. Wouldn't you like to teach in Rutherford County when you see this? When you think about if you're going to take a school composite, and incidentally, they posted a lot of those indexes up today, and that's on the public website. Brand new, came up this morning. You can go in and look under the TVAS site again and look at index values. That 1 to 5 index has appeared up today. Several of our schools have done very well. I'm really happy with that. But here's something that it shows it makes a difference. Here's a little, we can go in and extract some information from the TVAS system of how many of our teachers are scoring from levels 1 through 5. Now you remember the state saying most teachers are going to be a 3, and there's probably going to be 5 to 10% that get a 5, and another 10, 15% that get a 4. For Rutherford County in 2011, for the elementary composite, 680 teachers scored a 4 or a 5. 49.9% of our teachers scored a 4 or a 5. And we told our principals, and Mr. Gill and I met with them, you know, they were saying, if you give scores that are inflated, you're going to have to be retrained. So, you know, we literally told our principals, look, folks, your teachers from this data here, if you find yourself giving more 4s and 5s, you're really going to be on target. Even though maybe the state in their training was saying most everybody's going to be a 3, this is not our data. This is the TVAS data. This is what the state is going to compare to see whether you're doing your evaluation that's lining up with teacher performance and gains for students. So 49.9%. Look, this was the first year of that new test. I've always said, tell teachers what you want them to do, give them support to do it, and they'll do it. Look at the jump between 2010 and 2011. Look at that. In the elementary, they'll do it, you know, if you're supporting. In the high school, you don't have nearly as many tests, you know, it's just the end of course and the composites with that. So in our high school, 44.1% of our teachers scored a 4 or a 5 in that. So our parents and the others will be very interested in seeing this. And again, hats off to our teachers, our administrators in the school that are actually creating this performance. That's the last slide.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Don. That's very impressive, very interesting material there. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question, I guess, comment. Don, you might address it, or anybody that chooses to. Maybe we should ask a non-educator, because I'm thinking we may be on some of the same page. In light of that data that you gave right there for the level 4s and 5 teachers, it just makes me really wonder why we're going through the full rigor of doing this evaluation system that has been so discussed and so forth when we have data already available. It indicates to me we've got 49% of our teachers. I can't say that they can't get better, but I'm not sure me, the lowly brave that I am of a school administrator, can go in and tell someone that's a 4 or 5 how they're going to be better at those subjects. I know you can't answer that question, but it really frustrates me.
We sent that suggestion up, that if you're going to look at revising the evaluation system, do we truly need to take a tenured teacher? And interestingly, some of these are first-year teachers that get
Sure.
fined. So I was first saying, I don't know if anybody's going to get tenure or not. Some of them are. But that's what PLC does for you. When you put people together in collaborative groups and they start sharing ideas with each other, the water rises for everybody very quickly when you do that. And that's why it's been very good that we've maintained that PLC. But we said to the state, why don't we look at these 4s and 5s and look at them once every 3 years? In other words, get out of their way.
Yes.
You know, these people are proving that they're performing with gains for students. They're taking kids wherever they are, and they're gaining on them in comparison to everybody else in the state of Tennessee, because TBOS compares you to every other school in the state, as you saw from those dots. So my suggestion to any legislator or state person that's listening is, look at this data and let's think about doing that. Exactly what you're saying.
And the second point I'd make to that same thing, we've got at least 3 principals here, and more were mentioned, that understand all this. They get it. They're expressing this to their teachers. They wouldn't be getting these scores if they didn't. Again, the level of maybe mistrust from there to our principals of schools is just overwhelming to me. I'm just sharing frustration.
Everywhere is not Rutherford County, though.
I know.
We saw a lot of dots up there from other places, too, I'm sure.
Wayne?
Mr. Gill, am I right to think that this comparison for these scores that Mr. Odom just presented are with the more difficult academic subject area this last time compared to the previous year? So
Yes.
a substantial improvement in a year when the
Yeah, when
academic
the rigor was stepped up.
really,
Absolutely.
which just makes it that much more impressive to see these kind of gains, you know, in this year.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, Mr. Tackett made a good comment with respect to these principals. I went to Mr. Barlow today, did an observation on him, and asked him, are you a better principal than you were 3 years ago? You guys, they're growing. They're understanding data. They're understanding the challenges ahead of them. I think it's safe to say, by and large, the majority of our principals are rising to the challenge. And they're encouraging and motivating teachers to implement new strategies, to do assessments of the data, to go back and offer remedial and enrichment possibilities. As Don said, the PLCs are instrumental in their success, but it's just a different culture out there now than it was even 3 years ago with respect to the principal responsibilities.
Very impressive.
Yes, certainly is. Aaron?
Is the ACT the best score out of this that gives us a national perspective?
Well, Explore and ACT would be some national perspective, because most of the other, under No Child Left Behind, states have to create criterion reference tests. And so, most of your data across all 50 states would be mostly in-state, with the exception of some things like that.
And isn't there a national achievement level that we're striving for on the ACT?
There is. This, what I showed you tonight, is gains.
Right.
Now, Tennessee did something with ACT that other states have not done, in that we tested all students. You know, the number of students is less than a dozen, a number of states that test all students. Anytime you do that, you're going to see your composite scores drop some, because you're testing students who are saying, I'm not going to college, I do not want to go to college, why am I taking this long test? And those of you who take an ACT test, you know it takes a while to take it. So they're asking that question, but again, you're looking at what value added to all of those kids, even those that really don't want to go there in measurement. And so I'm very glad to see positive gains in a state that's testing all of the students. You know, I think that makes a difference.
You know, in connection with ACT, when you touched on it, when we went to the American Diploma Project and they upped the number of requirements, which really forced us to essentially reduce the number of minutes in a class. Also with the lottery in place where students can earn college scholarship money with a 3.0 and such on the ACT, it really forced kids to take more standard classes in lieu of taking the advanced honors and the AP classes, which is where you would stretch those ACT scores. Our challenge is to somehow get parents on board with respect to say, hey, we gotta get these, we gotta get your kids enrolled in these challenging courses. Until such time we do, I think we're gonna struggle with ACT scores.
I agree with you.
It was one of the fully most frustrating parts of what we did, is trying to encourage students to take the courses, and certainly by the time they got to senior year, there's some or out there that you know it's okay to cruise through. I've got my credits. I'm going to graduate. I've got a little bit of room to, and I don't want to run the GPA. And it was really frustrating to see the number of students taking standard classes that had no business being there whatsoever.
So we added the fourth year of math,
Yeah.
chemistry, or physics that you have to do. It's the new chapter.
I think that may be the answer, Tim. That why do we have these higher, more stringent, more rigorous evaluations? And I think it is in an effort. Maybe it's arduous to examine things more closely and everything, but I think that the achievement is tied to the standard being set higher. Expect more and achieve more.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Odom.
Got it, Mr. Odom.
Number 9.
Okay, old business, resolution on school vouchers.
Yeah, I managed not to bring my copy with me, but we've had some discussion on a resolution about issue of school vouchers, which apparently will be a hot one in the legislature next year. Thank you, Wayne. So if someone's of a mind to make a motion, now would be a time to do it.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? You okay with the wording of the motion? Resolution rather in front of us?
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion is adopted. So Ms. Michaels will get that out to our legislators. B is Director of Schools Evaluation. We had considerable discussion about this Tuesday.
I'd like to make a motion.
Chief?
I'd like to make a motion that we, instead of doing the narrative, that we go back and utilize the 2008 Director of Schools evaluation. I believe we used that for like 3 years. And of course, I'm still personally a proponent of the narrative, but I can see that a narrative and point system is warranted too. So I'm willing to bite the bullet and stay with the 2008 format.
Okay,
Second.
discussion. Aaron?
I'd move to table the motion. I indicated Tuesday night that we don't have anything specific to the priorities that we put forward in our board retreat, and I think it's important to include those. I worked somewhat over the past 36, 48 hours trying to pull some things together, and it's tough. It is tough to try and put that language together. We talked about that Tuesday night. How are we going to put something in place to evaluate those? I've taken a stab at it, but I feel like it's insufficient, and I think it's insufficient for one board member to do that. But if we value those goals that we put forward and we want to measure against them, then I think that we should push back, look at the December 15th meeting to get an evaluation that is examines our goals specifically, and then a January 10th, January 12th due date for that. Just push back one set of meetings. My motion to table.
I'll second. Discussion on the motion to table.
Just a question, I'm newer than most from a timeline standpoint. Are we problematic with this at all?
I mean, that would put us a month further along if we were to decide not to keep Mr. Gill, or he were to decide not to accept a contract offer. That would put us one more month closer to June 30th. So, I mean, to me, that's, you know, there's also the issue of giving him enough notice and us deciding in a timely manner for ourselves. But primarily, I think that's the restraint, is that if we do get into a new search, then that takes a while to conduct. Don?
I hate to think about another special call meeting this time. This sounds to me like that Mr. Holliday has put some things together and feels very strongly with it. So if we're going to discuss all of this, we need time to do it. But we don't need to just keep moving the calendar days. So I'm thinking if we have a meeting just to address, and it might be that we not only talk about the evaluation instrument, but we might look at the contract and see if there's anything in the contract that we can change or be familiar with. I don't know. This is, of course, I'll do what the board wants to do, and not whatever needs to be done.
You know, with all the different subheadings that we have in this evaluation that we have used previously 3 times, you know, there's plenty of opportunity for comment. And if you want to address those issues that we covered in the retreat, you know, you certainly can do that. You can write outside the lines. You know, there's places you can add your own sheet. You know, you can take a blank sheet and just add your own personal comments about any issue that you want. You just don't have to stay specifically with this document. So it is open-ended in that way. So this can still be utilized. I think we can still meet Mr. Holliday's concerns and address those individually if you deem that to be warranted. So it's not closed, it is an open-end document.
Terry?
Okay, I'll have to agree with Mr. Blair on that. I don't know, just personally, I don't know what you're gonna gain doing something else different. You know, the big picture, when you get to the end of it, whatever evaluation you do, what are you gonna do with it? I mean, that's what it goes back to dealing with Mr. Gill's contract is what we're looking at. And, you know, if he wants to come back, the board wants him to come back, I mean, you have to make a decision, do you want him to come back or not? So, when you get right down to this evaluation, I don't know why it's such a big deal. The one we had, I thought it was sufficient. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I always fill the thing out and sit down and talk to Mr. Gill. You know, the reason I give him this score, you know, good or bad. And I just don't see what we're going to achieve. I can take what we did in the retreat and work it right into this one we did before. So, you know.
Other discussion? Okay.
I think I would be inclined to go on the terms of maybe a special meeting to consider. We don't have to move the timeline if we do it that way. We're considering one thing. We can make that happen and stay with the timeline that we're on. Mr. Holliday feels this is important enough. He's certainly researched it more than I have, but I would be willing to do. We don't have to do a set of meetings, right? We're not a work session meeting.
Right.
So
No,
I'd be inclined to, if we do accomplish something, great. If we don't particularly accomplish a lot more than say with what we've got, I don't know if we've lost anything other than a little bit of time. But we can stay with our time frame if we do it that way.
My concern is, what do we do at this meeting exactly?
I would answer that we take a look at what influence does this board have on the goals for the next 12 months or the past 12 months. And in that respect, I think that it's our stewardship of our responsibility here. We set priorities, we set goals, and we should measure. We should measure them specifically and exactly. You know, we set an expectation. That should be what's on the test. The answer to that question is that the question that we put in place in February is not on the examination. You know, something sort of like it.
Well, I mean, I agree with you from a theoretical standpoint, and that's why I talked about maybe we can be a little more specific in our goals for the next year. But look back at what we came out of that retreat with, and they're really not measurable, at least not in my view. And so, yeah, it's great to say we're going to be specific and precise, but I don't know how you do that when our goal is to, you know, improve vocational education. Well, okay, how do we measure that? I'm not sure an additional meeting is going to help us.
Yeah, and I'd like to think what we saw tonight is a strong evaluation of the success of our director of schools. You know, it's about leadership and putting the right people in place, and we saw some outstanding scores tonight, and I think that's a really good evaluation, and I really believe we have enough information to pursue this evaluation now, and I would like to see us go ahead and do our due diligence at this point, and let's go ahead and evaluate our employee.
Other discussion?
I don't believe that the state of education in Tennessee is business as usual. The standards are changing and changing rapidly, and we owe it to our responsibility to examine our standards as well. And our only standard is the evaluation and the relationship between the board and the director of schools. It's worth some attention.
Terry?
I'm still to the point that at the end of the day, what are you gonna gain? what are you gonna gain at the end of the day? Either he's doing his job or he's not doing his job. I mean, as far as goals go, I mean, that's something, the way I look at it, if we're not meeting the goals, that's something we need to address as a board. But at the end of the day, I don't know, I don't know what you're gonna gain on this. I just think we're trying to reinvent something that, what we had before, I thought it worked out fine.
Okay, yes vote on this tabling motion will mean a delay, or potentially mean a delay. I guess it would either mean a special called meeting to discuss this further, or it would mean delaying everything until the January meeting. I think we'd have to make that decision separately if this passes. So a yes vote is you want to look at it further and potentially add some more questions or tweak the instrument in some way. A no vote means you're ready to presumably ready to adopt the motion that Mr. Blair, that would be a separate vote, of course, but no means you're ready to roll. Okay, everybody clear on that? Joyce, we call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
No.
Mr. Hodge?
No.
Mr. Holliday?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Dr. Burns?
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. What's your pleasure? You want a special meeting, or do you want to wait till January?
I sense from your comments that you feel that the timeline's important,
I think it is.
and I think it is at that point in time, which I mean, one of the reasons I would do, I kind of wish we could have rolled them up, because I do think the timeline's important, which means to me, a call meeting would be the most appropriate
Okay.
step to take.
One other option is that if the board formed a committee, the committee is not a board meeting, it does not have a financial impact on the taxpayers, and it could meet with sunshine disclosure and then bring a report back to the board. I only mention that because there is a taxpayer expense in a special call meeting.
Well, but we would still have to have a special call meeting if we wanted to act before
True.
the end of December.
But what you used to have a committee?
It just avoids the expense of a special call meeting.
You're gonna have another special call meeting, what you used to have a committee?
Well, if you did it December 15th and then January 10th, you wouldn't have a special call meeting.
We want to get it done before December, in December, don't we?
Well, I thought that's the way we were going to do it.
Well, I wouldn't want a committee because the director of schools is our employee. And so, if people from the community, other stakeholders want to contact us and to give us their opinion, we're all listed. I mean, we're on the website, everybody knows where we live. So, let's do, again, let me say, let's do our due diligence and evaluate our only employee.
Tim, did I see a hand?
I do. I move that we have that special call meeting at a date determined by the chairman of the board between here and that December set of meetings.
Prior to the December?
Prior to the December meeting,
Okay.
yes. That's my motion.
Second.
Discussion on that motion. Joyce, is that,
Prior to the December
December?
14th meeting?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry.
We don't
Grant,
have
go
to
ahead.
accept the funds for that meeting. We don't have to accept them.
We can give them to me. No, so you don't have to. Don't have to accept anything.
Yeah, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. That's certainly an issue. So,
But you voted
for it.
you voted
but
to do it that way.
not with the funds. What I'm trying to say. I don't need to to get paid for that, we just need to have a
Okay,
little more time
well,
to work.
let's don't get sidetracked. I mean, we're operating a system that spends $266 million. I think we all want to be careful about taxpayer funding, but if, as the majority says, it's important for us to have another meeting, then we'll have another meeting. And those of you who don't wish to accept payment, don't have to do it. Let's vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. So, motion's adopted. Joyce and I and Mr. Gill will put our heads together, and there's not a whole lot of time between now and that second week.
About 2.
2 weeks. We'll get something to you hopefully tomorrow, okay? And we'll figure out a schedule on that. I'm still a little vague as to what we're going to be doing at this meeting. Donald's suggestion of looking over the contract is probably a good idea. So Angel or Jeff, I'm not sure who would be most appropriate. Maybe Jeff, since you're acting on the board's behalf. If you'll come to this meeting ready to give us an overview of Mr. Gill's contract and able to answer any questions, I think that would be helpful. Does that sound good to the board?
Thank you.
And also board members, if there are changes you might want to potentially make, probably ought to get everybody a copy of the current contract too. So we'll do that in time for you to review that before the meeting. Okay. I think we're done on that. Any questions or comments further on that topic? You okay with all this, Mr. Gill? Oh, I forgot, you don't really have a say.
No.
We do, despite me trying to make a joke there, we do take this seriously. We want to be fair to you. We want to be fair to the taxpayers and make sure that we do a serious job. So it is something that we are going to put forth our best effort on. I think we're ready for number 10.
Follow-up status on previous board action items. Mr. Clardy has, will give you an update on various projects that are taking place.
Got a little difficulty here.
Let me just say while they're working on that, it occurs to me now after we've said this, if the goal of the special meeting is to get the new evaluation instrument, and our goal is to vote on the contract on December whatever, that gives us a remarkably short window to fill out this new instrument and give Joyce time to tabulate it. So we need to be aware of that. You're not going to have weeks to contemplate this new document. If we're all agreed that that's our goal, to have this settled by December 13th. So that should have occurred to me before we left that item, but I mean, it's going to be a matter of days that you'll have to complete this. And I don't think that'll be a problem, but I just want you to be aware of that.
Dr. Burns,
Yes, sir.
if I understand right, we're really not looking at amending much of what's here, maybe just an additional part. Does that sound fair?
Not from my perspective.
Okay.
Well, our goal will be to exit that special meeting with agreement
Sure.
on some sort of evaluation document. Okay. Mr. Clardy, you ready?
We're ready now.
All right.
First project we're going to look at is Stewart Creek High School. Making great progress out there. The weather's been cooperating except for the last couple of days. We're in the process of grading. This is the back of the property over close to Foxland. There's a berm that's going in there, and it'll be planted with evergreen trees. This is down at the detention pond on the south or east side of the property. This big 42-inch line has been put over the site for stormwater. You can see that the plumbing
is on the job site. They're currently putting plumbing pipe and the main trunk line down the center of the building. This is one of the junction boxes. I believe Mr. Gill referred to that last meeting, that has been installed on the storm sewer. Footings, as I said earlier, going in, we have close to 2,000 feet of footing in at this time. Another shot of the erosion pond on the back to trap the sediment until we get the other things in on the site. More footings, as you can see in the corner, right top corner, we are currently setting concrete block to get the floor elevation set so we can get the plumbing under the slab. Here's another shot of the block. Shot of the footings. So we're making great progress out there. We're well pleased with it. Campus school renovations, we're starting the final phase of work over there, and we'll be starting on December 17th on the top floor on the plumbing on the restroom. And working from the top down, we will have at least 2 boys and 2 girls restrooms available at all times while we're doing that. And then in the summer, we'll move out to the outside and do the remaining work on the steps and columns and railings. Kittrell sewer system, we have that complete. The last couple of days, they actually put the fence up around the thing the last couple of days during the rain. And it's ready to operate. We got to do a little paperwork with utility district, and they will be operating that for us. Mr. Fox did a great job getting it in a timely manner. And then Eagleville, Phase 2, we're currently, next week, they will be moving portables out there. The rain held us off a couple of days this week. And then shortly after that, within the next couple of weeks, we'll be mobilizing and getting earth-moving equipment on the site. That completes my report. Any questions?
Do you have any questions? Donald?
Consolidate, by them operating that system for us, do they have any conditions that they might tie additional lines onto that from some other location, or is this strictly they're operating it?
It will be done like Wilson Elementary School is done. They will operate it and maintain it for the express purpose of the school and the property there at Kittrell.
For that property?
Yes.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Gary.
11.
Yes, sir.
School approval compliance report. Tennessee Department of Education requires school systems to submit an annual school approval report indicating compliance with state rules and regulations and detailed plans to rectify any deficiencies. Instructional staff and principals have reviewed the requirements and determined that Rutherford County schools are in full compliance. I recommend that you approve the 2011-2012 school approval compliance report.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion is adopted.
Blackman Elementary School walking track. Principal Cynthia Ford requests permission to construct a walking track at Blackman Elementary School. Track will be 200 meters long, constructed of pervious concrete by MTSU students in the construction engineering program, and coordinated by Ms. Stitzel, coordinated school health. It will be located at the corner of Blaze Drive and Fortress Boulevard on school property. Funds for the project are coming from a grant procured by Ms. Stitzel and the Blackman Elementary School PTO at no cost to the board. Recommend that you approve a 200-meter pervious concrete walking track at Blackman Elementary School at no cost to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
At the work session, I raised the issue of the size of the infield, and Mr. Clardy got back to me and let me know adequate room for whatever we wanted to do in the infield, so excellent planning.
Okay. Other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion's adopted.
Thurman Francis Arts Academy batting cage. Dr. Helpers requests permission to construct a batting cage at Thurman Francis Arts Academy directly behind the back fence. Rutherford County Schools Maintenance Department will install the frame and the school will supply the net. Dimensions will be 55 by 12. Recommend that you approve construction of a 55 by 12 batting cage at Thurman Francis.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Let me second that.
Donald wishes to be recognized as seconding that motion.
I second the motion.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Batting cage, I just couldn't let that get.
Opposed, say no. Motion's adopted.
You could be first.
13.
Financial matters. A, Education Jobs Fund Amendment. The cafeteria fund will receive $153,018 of the system's $4,124,329.87 in the 2011-12 Education Jobs Fund. August and September are the months we are using to fund these funds. Cafeteria fund did not pay enough full-time staff in those months to cover the retirement in the original budget. The amendment reduces retirement by $12,857 and increases cafeteria worker pay, Social Security, and Medicare by that $12,857. Recommend that you amend the 2011-12 Education Jobs Fund budget by $12,857 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's adopted.
Race to the Top Amendment. This amendment adds $29,600 in revenue and expenditures to the Compass Learning Project in the second year Race to the Top budget and cleans up budgeted expenditures between line items and other projects in light of year-to-date actual expenditures. The $29,600 will cover an open purchase order to Compass Learning from the first year that the state had us liquidate at June 30, 2011. After this amendment, the second year Race to the Top budget will be $914,005.61. Recommend that you amend the second year of Race to the Top budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's adopted. 14.
There are 6 or 7 teachers that, as we said at the meeting, the work session Tuesday night, that were non-renewed last year that principals chose to employ this year under the old legislation that entitled them immediate tenure. And in lieu of reading all that information, we're going to recommend that you approve the list of teachers as presented for tenure with the Rutherford County School System.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? This, as you said 2 nights ago, this is a way to get them in under the old tenure.
Which was a directive from the state that
Right.
we,
Go ahead and do it.
hear that protocol.
Yeah. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's adopted. 15s are policy manual review. Do we have anything to say?
Yeah, you want me to say something about that? Oh,
That's
no,
probably
I'm
no-
sorry, pardon me,
no,
no.
Angel reports that we have a fairly lengthy agenda on November 30th for our policy meeting. Actually, this is probably a good time to talk about.
Yeah, one of the items on policy is, relates to supplements, in particular the capping of supplements, et cetera. We had a pretty lengthy discussion a couple of board meetings ago about, and what triggered it was a $16,000 supplement to someone that provided service for the band, in addition to $8,200 supplement. And the misinformation that I think is really percolated through the booster ranks is that we desire to cap those funds. That is not my intention to make that recommendation. I want to put some folks at ease. And what I think I've been after, and I don't know if this is true of the board, there may be some language that I recommend that says when supplements of $16,000 are paid out, please give us some sort of description that would warrant that kind of payment. And but beyond that, I don't intend to advocate for any kind of cap. I might also add, well, I would have added that if it hadn't that thought hadn't left me.
What's going on your evaluation? I appreciate you saying
Mr.
that,
Gill,
Harry.
family members, was that the thought?
Excuse.
Yeah, I think, we have nepotism policies with respect to other, across the system. Maybe that'll be something that will come out of that discussion. But
Let me just go back to the booster stuff. I mean, we've got a lot of booster club members here, and we appreciate them coming tonight and for several meetings. As Mr. Gill said, there's been some complete misinformation circulating on the internet, which is shocking to us all, I know. There's never been any proposal, and as far as I know, no contemplation of banning private instruction or banning supplemental pay. That's just not on the table. And you just heard Mr. Gill say he's not going to propose it. I certainly won't vote for it, although it's probably not good form to announce ahead of time what you would or would not do, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I haven't heard any other board members say that a cap is, maybe they think that, but I really don't think that's a likely outcome. So I think we're just trying to, as Harry said, set some minds at ease. I think several of us, maybe all of us, were surprised at the magnitude of some of the booster payments, and maybe we should have known that ahead of time, but I didn't. I think many of us didn't know. So, but here's the headline is, we're not seeking to ban private instruction. I mean, I don't know why we would want to do that. On the other hand, I've heard some folks say this is none of the school board's business, and I don't agree with that. It's going on school property, there's school organizations, it's our students, it's very much our business. But I certainly consider us a pro-booster club board. I mean, we couldn't have the programs that we have without either a massive infusion of tax dollars or the booster clubs that we have. So I hope that helps settle nerves to some degree. I'm trying to read faces. I can't tell if it does or not, but that's the best I can do at the moment. Any board member want to chime in on this issue?
Chairman, I believe there's some nuances to the issue that the policy meeting will give us all some insight into. You mentioned private instruction, and some of the private instruction has in the past taken place during the school day or immediately after the school day, and there has been some issue that Mr. Sandvig has weighed in on as far as use of school facilities and IRS regulations and those type of issues. There are some characteristics here that are appropriate for the board to weigh in on and to help the band programs come to a compliant solution. And so when we say that we're not interested in banning private instruction, our accounting department has indeed changed the landscape by which that private instruction is occurring. And I think that it's important and appropriate for the board to be aware of that.
Have they banned private instruction?
Any change with respect to something you and I discussed the other night, there's been some IRS, I hate Mr. Sandvik's not here, regulation that prohibits certain things as relates to the ban. I don't know them off the top of my head. I don't know that we hadn't just arbitrarily going to say you can't do this, you can't do that. Any decision we made was driven by higher legislation.
Obviously, we can't countermand the IRS.
No, we can't countermand the IRS.
Right. So I'm not sure what will come at the booster meeting, but that agenda will be finalized, I don't know when. Angel,
I
know
have the
exactly?
agenda finalized. I have not received the drafts back from TSBA, so I
Okay.
would like to send all that one time. If I don't have it back by next week, then I'm going to go ahead and send you the agenda and summary.
And will you post that online too? I think that would make people feel a little bit better. So there will be a policy meeting on November 30th. I'm not sure what Aaron's referring to in terms of nuances, if that'll be some policy, proposed policies or not. I mean, typically, our policies aren't quite that specific in terms of regulating exactly what time instruction could be given or those sort of, administrative matters that we typically leave to the professionals to handle. But we'll look for the agenda to clear that up. General discussion.
Excuse me, we need to vote on the policies.
I don't think we vote, do we? Typically, Joyce, have we voted on the policies?
That, these are okay? I mean, they should have.
Well, this is just our review, subject
That's true.
to TSBA, but
Right.
if we need to
Thank
vote, you,
No,
okay.
you got me.
When- I was not trying to get you.
Oh, no.
General discussion. Tim?
When might we know the results of the poll that was taken yesterday for collaborative?
I'm glad you asked. That segues into this. Paul, why don't
Oh.
you give the announcement, since you're the one who did you and Angel are the ones who did the work, if you don't mind coming up.
The Special Question Committee met this evening and received a summary of the results of the collaborative conference and request
On what?
initiated by the REA. Of the
No, the committee vote.
2,818 eligible professional employees, we had a total of 1,490 persons to vote yes and 29 to vote no. So there is a majority in favor of moving towards collaborative conferencing. So the next step will be for the board to name a committee to represent the Board of Education, and the REA having at least 15% of those responses, naming them as the organization, will actually hold the seats on the table for professional educators. The other organization did not have enough votes for their organization to total 15% of the responses that were initiated in the vote. So the REA will hold all the seats. All of that will be named at the December board meeting, and then we'll make the announcement, to all of the employees, and wait then until we have training sometime after the 1st of January.
Terry asked, does the board have to ratify or do anything, or the committee ratify the vote?
Not at this phase.
Okay.
The number of members. wasn't that
Well, I
it?
think that number of members is
Anywhere from 7 to 11.
between 7 and 11.
That's something you got to decide.
Yeah.
Correct?
It is.
Or who has to decide?
I think it's the chairman decides that.
Yeah.
My intention is to name 7. To me, we named 7, they named 7, that's 14. That's plenty of folks to discuss. I can't imagine having a 22-member committee to go over that. So, but that is my thought. If you all have some other thought, I certainly don't want to be dictatorial on this. If you don't think 7's enough.
That's fine.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? We're all sort of feeling our way through this process because we're the first, aren't we, Ms.
We are the
Barnes?
first county in Tennessee to have held our poll and move forward with this.
And so it'll start sometime next spring or possibly
Bill
early
again,
summer.
TOS is supposed to present the training sometime after January 1st. We'll sign up as soon as we have information about that. And once we receive training, we are free to then initiate the collaborative conferencing, just no later than July the 1st is the date for the law.
Any questions on that or discussion? Don?
Who's in charge of the training?
TOS, the Superintendent's Council has brought someone in to create that process, and then we'll train. That's all I really know about it. But I know that group is in charge.
And even interpreting the law is not real easy. As we've worked through this committee process, which went very smoothly, by the way. Thank you to Paula and to Angel and to the REA rep and the PET rep and the unaffiliated rep and Mr. Gill and Mr. Hodge and Mr. Blair. It all went quite smoothly, and so far, so good.
Now, if I understand this right, this will take place again in 3 years. Where we are right now lasts a while.
The way I understand the law is, once the committee meets, you have an opportunity to collaborate on those allowable topics. And then if you reach conclusions, you write a memorandum of understanding. And that memorandum of understanding will stay in place for 3 years unless the committee deems to do something different, but typically 3 years.
Other discussion on that point? Yeah. Any other discussion?
Just a quick, I'm sorry. I was just going to congratulate both Riverdale and Eagleville. They're both still in the state football playoffs. Both of them are undefeated. I know there's a lot of excitement in Eagleville. We were out there for a principal meeting this morning, and you know, they started football, I think 5-6 years ago, and they've already made it this far. So good luck to both of them in their endeavor tomorrow night.
And my words of congratulations go to Siegel High School Band, third-year contest champions winner. That flies a little bit under the radar from where the football folks are, but Dr. Burns would know of my love of band and the appreciation that I have for seeing those people get their recognition too. So that's a big deal. That's a state championship for 3 years in a row for Siegel High School.
Awesome, yep.
I also wanted to recognize the students from Rutherford County that put together the banner we had at the TSBA convention. Kason Thompson, Joseph Pascal, Austin Work, McKenna Miller, Casey Sullivan, Marilyn Hager, Carolyn Wade, Paula Collette, Julia Shoemate, and Taylor Stiegel. And so we were proud to have that on display during the convention this past weekend.
Thanks, Aaron. It's a nice, very nice banner. Other discussion? So be checking your voicemail or email. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get you a date on our special meeting about the evaluation. With that, we are adjourned.